Imagine a world in which everyone is finally equal. Wouldn't that be a dream come true for all those folks out there constantly fighting for equality every day? Just think about it. I'm talking about the short story Harrison Bergeron, written by American author Kurt Vonnegut. And this is how it starts. The year was 2081, and everybody was finally equal. They weren't only equal before God and the law. They were equal every which way. Nobody was smarter than anybody else. Nobody was better looking than anybody else. Nobody was stronger or quicker than anybody else. All this equality was due to the 211th, 212th, and 213th Amendments to the Constitution and to the unceasing vigilance of agents of the United States Handicapper General. That's sure a lot of amendments. Harrison Bergeron was first published in October 1961 in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, and was later republished in the author's Welcome to the Monkey House collection in 1968. Once again, I have to remind my viewers that my plot summary and review have story spoilers. And that if you'd rather read the short story first, a link is provided in the description. So, in this future America, everybody is rendered equal by the state. The person in charge to make sure this happens is the Handicapper General, and her agents enforce the equality laws, forcing citizens to wear handicaps, masks for those who are too beautiful, loud radios that disrupt thoughts inside the ears of intelligent people, and heavy weights for the strong or athletic. One April, 14-year-old Harrison Bergeron, an intelligent, athletic, and good-looking teenager, is taken away from his parents, George and Hazel Bergeron, by the government. They are barely aware of the tragedy, as Hazel has average intelligence, and by average I mean plainly stupid. And George has a handicap radio installed by the government to regulate his above-average intelligence. Hazel and George watch ballet on television. They comment on the dancers who are weighed down to counteract their gracefulness and mask to hide their attractiveness. George's thoughts are continually interrupted by the different noises emitted by his handicap radio, which piques Hazel's curiosity and imagination regarding handicaps. Noticing his exhaustion, Hazel urges George to lie down and rest his handicap bag, 47 pounds, 21 kilos of weights locked around George's neck. She suggests taking a few of the weights out of the bag, but George resists, aware of the illegality of such an action. On television, a news reporter struggles to read the bulletin and hands it to the ballerina wearing the most grotesque mask and heaviest weights. She begins reading in her unacceptably natural, beautiful voice, then apologizes before switching to a more unpleasant voice. Harrison's escape from prison is announced. A full-body photograph of Harrison is shown, indicating that he is 7 feet tall, 2.1 meters, and burdened by 300 pounds or 140 kilos of handicaps. George recognized his son for a moment before having the thought eliminated by his radio. Harrison himself then storms the television studio in an attempt to overthrow the government. He calls himself the Emperor and rips off all of his handicaps, along with the handicaps of a ballerina whom he proclaims his Empress. After removing the handicaps of the musicians, he orders them to play, After listening and being moved by the music, Harrison and his empress dance while flying to the ceiling, then pause in mid-air to kiss. Diana Moon Glampers, the handicapper general, enters the studio and kills Harrison and the empress with a 10-gauge double-barreled shotgun. George, unaware of the televised incident, returns from the kitchen and asks Hazel why she was crying, to which she replies that something sad happened on television that she cannot remember. He comforts her, and they return to their average lives. Researching for this video, I found out the great majority of videos and comments were either from English teachers or from people who had to read the story as an assignment for school. And I thought the story was popular just because it was good political and science fiction. Oh, the joys of having to read good literature as a mandatory task imposed by school. I certainly don't miss that time. Anyway, Harrison Bergeron makes a strong criticism against state intrusion on regular people's lives, with the complicity of those very people it is oppressing. In the story, abusive laws push against the moral and ethical human boundaries, eliminating or impeding individualistic achievements and developments. It's a satire which makes use of exaggeration and ridicule to criticize societal stupidity. It could be interpreted as a criticism of socialism and communism, so prevalent in the 60s, but the same criticism could be applied to those socialist ideas present today. Remember, it's just a satire, not a roadmap for a functional society. It's not supposed to make too much sense of how a functional society would work. This is why adaptations don't work. I've seen the 2009 short film 2081, whose link I've included in the description, and I don't think the adaptation to video really works. We may think the actors cast are too good looking, and even extras have to show handicaps, and they don't seem realistic, which forces the believability of the story. And just imagine so many people in the streets walking around carrying weights attached to their bodies. How could a society function this way? Logic fails. You can't make a long movie either, as in 1995, Harrison Bergeron. I also include the link, although the movie differs greatly from the short story. The story's premise only works as a brief satirical written work. If we think too much of the premise, we realize professionals can just be average. And remember that according to Vonnegut, average means stupid. An average doctor, an average teacher, an average engineer? Come on. Hazel is stupid, but we don't see her at work. Do George and Hazel even work? How could George work if he can't concentrate and has to walk around carrying heavy weights? Those HG agents sound like special agents, and special agents cannot be average. They are supposed to be way above average. The premise doesn't work outside satire. As I said before, Hazel Bergeron is average. She sounds brain dead at times. She watches her son being killed on TV, but minutes later, she can barely remember the incident, referring to it as something sad. She has the attention span and memory of a goldfish. That's not average. That's mentally defective, which shows Vonnegut didn't have much consideration for the average Joe. This reminds me of the expression lowest common denominator. Not in math, of course. Colloquially, the expression lowest common denominator is used to describe, usually in a disapproving manner, a rule, proposal, opinion, or media that is deliberately simplified so as to appeal to the largest possible number of people. You know, people who criticize television, for example, say that popular TV shows and movies try to cater to as many people as possible, watered down for the average Joe, trying to satisfy the lowest common denominator. This also reminds me of the 2006 movie Idiocracy. In the movie, Private Joe Bowers, played by Luke Wilson, is the definition of average American. He's selected by the Pentagon to be the guinea pig for a top-secret hibernation program. Forgotten, he awakes 5 centuries in the future. He discovers a society so incredibly dumbed down that he is easily the most intelligent person alive. It's an interesting movie and I recommend it. It's curious to see how both George and Hazel support the unfair establishment. Hazel tries to improve the system, but since she's too stupid, all her suggestions are stupid. George seems resigned to follow it, reminding Hazel of the illegality of breaking the rules and referring to our time as Dark Ages. The message is clear. If ordinary people do nothing, unfair laws are enacted and oppression becomes a reality. Harrison, on the other hand, defies the establishment, and he's a Greek god. He's 7 feet tall, 2.1 meters. A genius and an extraordinarily handsome, athletic, strong, brave, romantic, and impulsive person. He wants to live as an unimpeded human being and does not want to obey the laws of the government, having been jailed by the Handicapper General's office for planning to overthrow the government. To eliminate any unfair advantages, the Handicapper General forces him to wear the most extreme handicaps, reflecting his extraordinary attributes. He is forced to wear huge earphones and spectacles intended to make him half-blind and give him tremendous headaches, disfiguring makeup in the form of blackened teeth and a red rubber nose to mask his extraordinarily good looks, and so many weights to compensate his prodigious strength that they make him look more like a junkyard than a man. When he escapes from jail, the government describes him as a genius and an athlete and tells people that he should be regarded as extremely dangerous. But honestly, I don't know what Harrison expected to accomplish by storming the television studio and by commandeering the cameras and musicians. To me, it sounded more like a desperate move by someone running out of options and who wanted to end it all with a dramatic and romantic move rather than a mastermind with a brilliant plan to overthrow the government. What impresses is that Harrison Ford, I said Harrison Ford, I'm sorry. What impresses is that Harrison Bergeron, even though it was written in 1961, feels perfectly updated and quite in tune with the times which we live today. Definitely not politically correct, but that instead of making the story feel old, give the story an irreverent and defying feel. It most probably wouldn't have been written today. First of all, it criticizes the blind idea of equality of outcome, which many activists defend today. There will be a special video just about that, in which I explain the term. Anyway, in the Bergeron family, the men are smart and Hazel, a woman, is clearly stupid. And the oppressor, symbolized by the Handicapper General, is a woman. The story takes down several of the left's sacred cows. Well, that's it for now. But next video we'll continue talking about Harrison Bergeron, not Harrison Ford. This time approaching how the ideas explored in the short story can affect the world of sports today. And what do you think about the more controversial aspects of this story? Write that in the comment section. Don't forget to give this video a like or a dislike if you really feel you have to. If you want to keep track of all the videos published here as well as help the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Until the next video, see you all then.